Pierce Vasale, born and raised Charleston, West Virginia. Went to school in Morgantown, West Virginia, West Virginia University. And actually, I'm an oddball case for Landwind professional. Not that oddball, but still not the common person to end up there. I straight out of high school went to college for 4 years and got degrees in mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering, bachelor degrees. Um, and then the market kind of tanked, and everybody who wanted engineers with experience, or at least some sort of certification. Problem is mechanical and aerospace engineering, the only way to get certified is to have years of experience. That's actually a prerequisite for some of the certifications, is that you have experience and some supervisor to sign off on you ready to take the certification. So I actually ended up taking a year teaching middle school science at a magnet school for the arts in Charlotte, North Carolina. And after a year of that, I did not want to go back. No offense to the kids. It was really most of the parents. But it was definitely a learning experience. I enjoy teaching, but I think I want somebody who's older and really wants to be there. Like I said, it was a magnet school for the arts. I was teaching science, not their favorite subject. But I continued my search looking for engineering positions while teaching. And during that time, I came across some posting for internships or training with the Landwind professional. And I decided that was probably a good option. It's an internship. Hey, I'll give it a shot. I'll, put in my resume and see what happens. And lo and behold, a few days or weeks or however long it was later, I really lost track of the hundreds and thousands of resumes put up or submitted before that time. I got contacted and said, "Yeah, take this, little test, see what you know, or see what you can at least look up online or in books and about IT. What can you know is right?" And I nailed that thing, got 100%. I was on the phone the next day, and that's when I started talking with Landwind. It was quite an experience. I have 2 degrees, mechanical and aerospace engineering. And the problem with me was I had no experience. I'd had an internship, but I wasn't able to get a co-op. I had scholarships to pay for 4 years. A co-op means putting off, a semester on, a semester off. And I couldn't afford that because I'd lose some of my scholarships and have to start paying for college. So when I was done, I had all these degrees and really no real life experience and no way to get certified because the certifications required experience, which is kind of what threw me into this other track with IT. I just changed gears a little. If you have a mathematical mind, a scientific mind, you like to tinker, you like to figure out how things work, or simply you're just an organized person, you like Excel spreadsheets, IT is very good for you. For me, for Landwind, it was great because, especially for IT, they knew I didn't have any experience. I took a little test. I took even a little test drive of their program, if you will. I went up for a weekend or a little bit for a few days, and here's how our program works. Here's the kind of stuff you'll be going over, almost like a crash course, but free. They even, reimbursed me for most of my flight out there, considering they're in California and I was on the other coast entirely. Excuse me. But the way that Landwind works, I got certified. In fact, I have a few here in front of me. I have my CCNA, my CCNA voice, my CCNP, CCDA, and CCDP, and I'm already working on my CCIE. I started getting certified in December. It is currently the beginning of June. And as I understand it, most people don't go for a CCIE until they have 10 or 15 years of experience. I started work last week. How's that? Well, I'm not actually sure what started me on, hey, I'm going to go for Landwind. I mean, a part of it was probably, like I said, by that point, I had been applying for I don't know how many positions every day. Even while I was teaching, I would come home. I'd had a long day teaching. I'd come home. I'd start planning. I'd start grading. I'd start doing all this. And then I'd go online and look through hundreds of jobs postings online and apply to more and more. At a point, they all started to blur together. But I especially looked for anything that said internship. Internship was the golden word for me in this case because I had no experience. I must get an internship. It just made sense. Um, I knew with Landwind it was IT. It wasn't really the same, but it involved a lot. Had all the training, and as I said, there was a bit of the test drive kind of feature there where I could try it out without having to put all this money forward. And so that's really what got me was one, it had internship in the name. That's what I was looking for. But also it was just this great opportunity. And like I said, they're allowing me to test drive, see how did Landwind and all the training exceed my expectations if I had any. Problem there is if I had any, I did not know what to expect when I went there. I did not know about the pace. I did not know how difficult it was. To be frankly honest, as of November 2011, the beginning of November, the majority I knew about anything IT was what I had personally figured out about my own computer. I knew what wires were. I did not know the difference between a straight through and a crossover. I would not have had a clue. If you'd asked me, I would have been able to parse it together. I knew there were routers. I probably didn't know the word switches or hub. Well, no, I knew hub. But all these bridges and switches and the numbers didn't mean anything to me. What's a 6500 or versus a 4400? As far as I knew, 6500 came after 4500. That's it. I knew nothing, really. But I knew I wanted to learn. I knew I enjoy learning. I still enjoy learning. And I chose for the pace after the first weekend there. I knew what the pace was kind of like going to be, so I decided I'm just going to try for the hardest thing you have to offer that Landwind has to offer. That's me. I like a challenge. And the hardest one was let's go for the CCIE. Let's be an expert. And so for the next couple of weeks while I stayed there through the residency program, I really could have started or dropped off at any point. There was no hard set, you're in this program, until I was done with that week and got some of the hard hands-on training while I was there. So I really did know what kind of a pace I could keep. In that sense, I got some expectations, and I expected myself to keep up. And the residency program, I will admit, if you want to do it like I did, you can do it very, very, very tough. I was there for, I think it was 2 weeks straight, living upstairs and working downstairs. And it was not 8 hours a day. It was more. You slept 8 hours a day. You worked the rest. You had breaks. It was your own pace that you set. There are some lectures that came in, a few modules that they set up. Follow this, sometimes as a group. And even some quizzes or tests, as well as their own certifications to show you what you are in fact capable of. But a large part of it is, here's some modules, go through. If you have any questions, here's a whole row of people right next to you just waiting for you to ask and waiting for you to ask for help. How do you do this? Or what about that? And teaching you the methods of how to look it up for yourself as well. Obviously, once you have a job, it's not going to do anything else. But to reiterate, November 2011, I knew diddly squat about IT. It is now the beginning of June. I'm in my second week as an intermediate level network engineer for the second or third largest healthcare provider in the U.S., depending on who you ask. There are 7 other people on my team. I think I've learned quite a bit with Landwind. Landwind Professional is the whole way. I originally actually signed up for not only the training, but for an internship. And in that regard, as I neared the end of getting my design certifications with Cisco, Landwind started. First off, Landwind Professional made my resume. I gave them information. They made my resume. I just proofread it. That was it. It was really easy on my part. And when I compare it back to some of the old resumes that I had used, I can definitely see some improvements. Granted, it's IT, so it's structured a little bit differently. You list a lot more technologies. And Landwind, they go through that with it. They explain why they did what they did, how their system works. But like I said, I was originally in the internship program, and as I neared my design certifications, I was working with them. They were trying to hook me up with a few different companies in the area that would be interested on taking me on as an intern for 12 months. And the way that it's set up, I'm going to be working with a company for 12 months. After that, Landwind's going to help me get a job, though I'm going to have 12 months of experience, so how hard do they really have to work? Plus, I was going to have a CCIE certification. Again, how hard were they really going to have to work? I even met with some of the companies that were interested. I have the option within the 12 months to drop it at any time. I could take a job offer at any time. It's not some sort of 12-month contract I'm hardwired into that I must accept. I could start working for them or somebody else, very fluid, very much oriented on me and not Landwind. As it turns out, I actually got an actual job offer also while looking for the internships. I finished my certifications, didn't quite have one lined up. I'm one of the few people in this area, so they were really reaching out, making some new contacts. And I went through them not only in the internship track, but also in the direct placement. And the direct placement, they have an entire checklist. Here are all these job sites that you need to post your resume to. Here are a list of companies that you need to directly apply to, or for that matter, here are hospitals, government, all these different things that I needed to find in the area, make my own list, and apply straight to those. Look at job sites. There is a checklist to follow, and you go through this entire system, and it works. I'm one of those, again, oddball cases. The job I landed is actually the very first in-person interview that I got. I got a job with that company. I'd had one phone interview with them before that, and I had actually before that, besides meeting with recruiters, I'd only had one other phone interview before that. Unfortunately, they were looking for somebody more in a server side of the network, and there was a few things that I hadn't really touched on. So again, we're talking a few months, several certifications. Landwind walked me through the entire process of not only the certificate, not only the training and learning, and then the certifications in that order, not backwards. I learned, then I got certified. And then they helped me get a job. They were working to get an internship as well as walking me through getting a full-time job. And the way that I go through getting a full-time job, I can apply it to getting a job later on in life. It is something that you can very easily follow. It's a very good system. And lo and behold, it worked. It didn't take that long. The job that I, Pierce Vasale, have gotten straight out of all these training and certification with Landwind. And actually, let me back that up. I'm not even done yet. I have gotten from CCNA through CCDP. For the CCIE, I've only taken the written. Once I've gotten settled in my job, I'm going to be going right back to my computer in the evenings and working remotely with Landwind on the CCIE lab and working with remote training, and eventually I'm going to fly back out to California and do some more hands-on training. And this is something that I know a few companies will even reimburse some people for because, hey, it was training. We didn't have to pay you to do it in the first place, but we'll reimburse you. It's a pretty good deal. Anyway, in my case, my job that I've gotten, I'm working for Carolina's healthcare system, which, as I mentioned before, is this, depending on who you ask, first, second, or third largest healthcare provider in the U.S. It's definitely the largest in the area, and it covers both North and South Carolina. Obviously, it's not a private provider. It has in the area, I believe it's 32 hospitals and 600 individual sites. Now, an individual site can be an entire urgent care. or it can be a single doctor's office that is in a building with 10 or 12 other doctor's offices. But you have to keep in mind that that doctor's practice is separate from the person on the floor below, so it's a completely separate network. It just ties into the core area of Carolina's healthcare system, CHS. For me, my typical day can be just about anything. I'm only on my second week, but I have spent some days where, for instance, there was one facility, it was a research facility attached to one of the main hospitals, that they were adding some wireless on a couple floors and completely replacing some old 4500 series switches with some pizza boxes style switches and some other upgrades while we were at it. It was a Saturday thing that I actually went in for. But before that, the week leading up to it, we were coming in, we were racking. It was really just physical work. I first helped to configure some of the switches. They'd already been, tested and set up. I was really just copying and pasting and checking for mistakes because Cisco's so great like that, copy and paste. But then we, of course, carted them over. We started racking them and bolting them in, or screwing them in, and getting them prepped so that Saturday, all we really had to do was take out the old stuff and rewire everything. So again, lots of physical work in that regard. I'm just now getting my actual login so I can log into the existing network. It's actually going to be a while for me before I am doing anything on my own. And that's not because of my lack of experience so much as it is a humongous network. Wireless is not everywhere. It's not even in all the hospitals. But for those of you who are a little bit further along or know a little bit more, a single wireless controller can control so many APs, access points, basically the wireless routers that are actually out there, sending out the signal. But then you also have guest wireless controllers, and those can handle thousands, 7,000 in some cases. We have 5 guest wireless controllers. Now, keep in mind that's controlling 7,000 other controllers that are controlling several hundred other access points. And wireless is a very, very small part of the network. I don't know how many diagrams of how these networks are set up and connected. I think there are 3 or 4 different service providers depending on where in the states you're looking. And it's a huge process, very, very large company, lots to learn. But eventually, a typical day is going to be I come in at whatever time. It's pretty much I choose what time I come in and just keep it normal. And I'm there for 9 hours with an hour-long lunch break, which is great. But my typical day is going to be coming in, and I'm going to have a queue, whether it is the queue that my team, data network, shares with all kinds of tickets that need to be fixed, and we just kind of go through them. There's also larger issues, tickets that one of the senior people on the team will assign to us individually, and I'll be going through and either I'll of course try remotely first to log into everything, see what I can do without I don't actually have to physically go out there. But sometimes that's going to mean going into a switch and making some changes, sometimes just checking some material. Other times I'm going to have to physically go into the inventory room, get out a new switch, copy the configuration from the TFTP server, and manually go out there and swap it out. The position I have is a little bit odd compared to some, and the fact that we cover it, our team covers it all. If it hits into our area, our data network, voice is actually a separate team that we work with, and a few other odd things like that. Like each hospital has their own IT people, but we're in charge of our closet that connects to the networks, and it gets really convoluted and hard to explain at times. But and then we also have a supervisor who has yet a third queue for us, but he does projects. We're upgrading this, or there's a new hospital or new building going in here, and this is the thing that I'm going to get. So every day I come in, I'm going to have possibly something new. If I see a pattern, it probably means we need to replace something, just so we don't see that pattern repeating anymore. Right now, I'm pretty much just shadowing, following the other guys, and doing whatever they say, whether it be physical labor or logging in and making changes to some of the switches or reconfiguring. It is a broad spectrum. And once I really get in and they trust me on my own, then every 8th week I get a pager and I'm on call 24/7 for an entire week. um, it's a blast. It's a lot to learn, really a lot to learn, a lot to go over, but most of it's learning where everything is, how it's connected, and how not to get lost in the hospitals. um, it's amazing. Some of these closets are bigger than the house I grew up in, and there are multiple of them in some of these hospitals just because there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. It is a humongous opportunity and a humongous layout, everything. It's it's great. This is not a job that I expected to get right out of all training and certification. I expected some little dinky entry level position, a fast track up because I had all these certifications. But more or less, I pretty much saw, because my background was mechanical and aerospace engineering with a stint as teaching and some engineering internship in Mexico and da 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 da. And all I had were these certifications. I was really expecting my certifications just to be, oh, he has no education, but he has certifications, kind of like a balancing act, as if I came in with maybe just a CCNA and some degree in computer engineering or IT work of some kind. Instead, right into the fire, right into the oven there. But like I said, it's great. Not at all what I expected, really. Towards the end, I knew what I was expecting to be in by the end of, a year or two of experience. I kind of skipped the 1 or 2 year of experience beforehand. I have a few friends who are still working at Best Buy and Target, waiting for that career position to come in, but at least they're keeping up with all the tech they can, occasionally taking another class here or there, just so they're updated on that. For me personally, obviously I was having trouble getting a position, and the problem was I was an inexperienced, uncertified young little kid, really, just to put it bluntly. With IT, once I had all these certifications from Landwind, through Landwind, they helped me with the Cisco certifications. Obviously, the certifications were a big plus. They really do get me noticed. That was whenever somebody, a recruiter or HR, is looking for somebody to fill in a position, CCIE kind of jumps off a page, or CCDP, CCNP, they really do jump out there. And of course, as I also mentioned, Landwind made my resume. So they put all the technologies, all the different hardware and software and different things that we work with, hands-on there in training, that I knew I had worked with, that I had gotten very proficient at least with. On the resume. And again, it really just makes your resume pop out in any kind of search somebody does. I started putting my resume up on job sites, not even applying for anything yet, just up on job sites one weekend. That week I was getting calls from recruiters and HR people, hey, can you come in? I want to meet you. Let's talk. Let's see what we can get. Let's make a profile on you, see if we can match you up with a job. And then I started putting my resume on the recruiters' websites, and of course that even started flooding it even more. That really helped out. And of course, applying to jobs every day or so often, following the checklist, following the spreadsheet that Landwind has in their system, and it does work. I can't really say I hit too many stumbling blocks for me personally after I got the certifications. The first was just trouble getting an internship, because that's what I was really wanting. I really wanted an internship where they knew I had no experience and that I was really being trained up. I knew enough to get the certifications. It was more or less a confidence in myself situation. I just wanted an internship. But again, like I said, I'm the first one out here, so they had to make all kinds of new connections. And while I also met with some people, it just happened that I ended up finishing up my certifications, and I didn't want to sit around and wait for an internship. So I also hopped onto the direct placement track, and that just happened to land me a position first, and I went with it. I can't think of any other stumbling blocks, really. It was really straightforward and simple. If you do this, you will get a job. Go, kind of thing. Anytime I had a problem, I called up my people at Landwind. I say my people, everybody that I talked with at Landwind. Hey, I have a problem with this, or hey, how do I deal with this? For that matter, the first time I got contacted, I didn't even call the person back or immediately respond to the email. I sent it on to one of the people I was talking with at Landwind, and they walked me through. Okay, this is probably how it's going to go. Here's some things you should say. Well, let's try it. Walk me through. Let's test it out. All right. Basically, during training, I had a mock interview. After I was done with all these certifications and I was getting ready for talking with recruiters on the phone and in person and actual companies, everything, I had more mock interviews. I had mock phone interviews with some people at Landwind, walked me through, made suggestions, helped me out. I had, all this preparatory work, and lots of times it was just listening and saying, "No, that makes a lot of sense." Scribble, scribble. Make sure to one thing that for me, I like brighter colored shirts, and it was pointed out that at least for the interview, I should probably stick with white shirts or some stripes, some light blue or white, something like that. To be honest, it really did help. Now, once I have the job, as long as I fit the dress code, I'm good. But every time that I could think of something to ask, there was either already an answer for it, or I just had to ask, and it's because I wasn't looking in the right place for the answer. Landwind has definitely impacted my life in the short term. I mean, I said I got out of college. I worked for a summer actually in a deli and mind you, I came out with 2 engineering degrees. I am a rocket scientist by degree. And I spent the first summer out of college working at a movie theater and a deli. And then once the summer was over, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and spent a year teaching middle school science. It was a lateral entry license that not all places do. Basically, I had engineering degrees. I had some background with tutoring and teaching, and they just made somebody watch me. And I was really not going anywhere. Like I said, the teaching, I decided, at least for middle school, was not for me. If it were something higher, kids were opting into a class and it were math, science related, that would have been great. But it just wasn't for me. It was a dead end. I knew I hadn't even been in it a year, and it was already a dead end job. And so in the short term, the fact is, Landwind got me a job. I'll put it bluntly like that. They got me a job. Yes, I got the certifications. Yes, I did the interview. And yes, I actually learned this stuff. But I could not have done it without Landwind. They had all the information. They had all the practice. They had all of the training. And I don't just mean training for certifications. I don't just mean training for IT knowledge. I mean real-world training. Training for how to get a job, training for how to interview, for that matter, training on how to apply to a job and how to keep it afterwards. I'm still in contact with a couple of people at Landwind. They check up on me. Hey, how's it going? Hey, have you heard about this really cool new technology? Or have you thought about anything or any problems? Anything we can help you with? How about this? Once I get settled, I'll be on the phone with them again, starting up that CCIE lab training. This is an ongoing thing for me. For that matter, I don't see why I wouldn't come back in about 3 years to renew some of my certifications, to go through with them, because it works so wonderfully, and it's such a great experience. So in the long term, Landwind got me a job. Don't let me forget to mention that. That's a short term and long term. Short term is they got me a job. Long term is they got me a career. and I can always come back to them for more help if I decide to change tracks in who I'm working with or for, or I decide to go in a different path with my Cisco certifications and just get recertified for that matter. Landwind's always going to be there for me. Beyond career opportunities, obviously getting a career, and it's definitely a bigger paycheck than teaching. My wife and I are actually now looking at getting a house instead of an apartment. So obviously the increased paycheck is going to help with that, and actually being able to move into some place with more than a bedroom and a bathroom. I'll be honest, we actually have a 2-bed, 2-bathroom apartment, but we use one as this room, the office and library. And we do have quite a bit of space for library. You can only see a small section of the wall behind me. The walls to either side are completely covered with bookshelves and books. So space is definitely a big thing, and maybe within the next year or so, start a family up. It'd be really great to have some space, and the larger paycheck is going to help with that too. For non-believers out there in Landwind and in their system, I don't know how well this is going to come up in focus. This is my CCNA. The date on it, it says valid through December 30th, 2014. Good for 3 years, meaning I got it December 30th, 2011. Keep that in mind. CCNA. CCNA Voice has the same date. I actually took the CCNA Voice first a few weeks earlier in December while I was in California at Landwind's site getting trained. And that was really, they really want you to try the wireless, try the voice, try the security. Just try one of them because they're a lot easier than the CCNA. Thing is you don't actually get it till you have the CCNA. The CCNP here says January 11th, 2015. So again, that was January 11th, 2012. So we're talking about not even 2 weeks here between the two. And then the CCDA has March 31st, 2015. So again, that was this March. And surprise, surprise, there's a CCDP that also says March 31st, 2015. I took those on the same day. So I can guarantee you that the system works, and I did get them that fast. Like I said, I'm already working on my CCIE. The written part I took actually before I got the design certifications. The lab I'll take later on this year. I just decided to take some time off, get a job, considering that's kind of the goal here. And right now I'm getting settled in the job. It'll take a few months for that, and then I will pick up for the lab training once I'm kind of settled, and I'll go and continue with all of that. It works. It just does. For me, I guess it was because, like I said, I like learning. I like to challenge myself. They had this program, Landwind had this program, and said, you can do it. If you're prepared, it is physically possible. So I went for it. Here I am.
Excellent. What does your wife think of all of this?
You want to ask her?
Sure, why not? Hi.
Well, I like the fact that he finally got a job that he actually enjoys doing. He's excited about it. And that's what I've been kind of concerned that he found something that he would be happy doing. That's all I kind of cared about.
I think the added paycheck doesn't hurt
Well,
either.
yeah, that doesn't hurt.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. For those of you who are watching this now, so a little more serious. For those of you who are watching this now, if you are in a dead end job and you just want to expand, give it a shot. I mean, what do you have to lose? They're basically going to pay for you to come out there and try it out for a weekend. If you can keep up and you enjoy it, stick around. Try it. If you are already in IT and you're just trying to go for a higher certification, maybe you've been stuck at the CCNA level or the CCNP level, you're trying to go up one. or even 2, and you've been, for the past 2 years, you've taken this test 2 or 3 times, or maybe 4 or 5, and you keep getting closer, you're just not getting over. Give Landwind a try. What do you have to lose? I mean, I've looked at some of the self-study training. If your company is going to offer for all that, go through the training, great, go for it, especially if they're paying for it. But if you're going through all this self-study, as most of you who are watching this video probably are, you know how expensive it can get to not just the books, but if you actually want some hands-on, get some routers, get some switches, get some modules physically in there, you start racking up the bill. Now, obviously, if you're already pretty high up, again, you can maybe get some stuff from work. They don't want to, pay for your training, but they'll help reimburse for some of the toys that you use for your training. But maybe you've been going for the CCIE 2 or 3 times. When I was going through recruiters to get a job, I actually heard mention that not only does the CCIE lab have something like a 10% first-time pass rate, but there are people out there, maybe you're one of them, who put on their resume, you've attempted the CCIE lab 2 or 3 times and you're getting better. Give Landwind a try. What do you have to lose? Really. If you're not even in IT, but you're working out at Best Buy or Target or some other place, like some of my friends who are waiting for their career, if you're waiting for a career and you know IT isn't for you, you're not watching this video. You're watching this video because something has interested you. Something about the technology, about working with networks, working in IT, getting certified, something has interested you enough to watch this video and to get this far in the video to hear me say this. Give it a try. What do you have to lose?